I followed your career over the years, as well as your peers in the industry. The financial services sector, out of the 2008 crisis, a lot of it was driven because of the regulations, because of the transparency the regulators were looking for. And I remember John Padega from the EDM Council speaking about defensive data governance versus offensive requirements. How important is it these days to build that business case, to have that business case to get funding? Or is it accepted and known that data governance is important for the business and therefore money just comes out easily for the things that you need to get done? I'm curious, where is the business drivers these days? Is it still coming from a regulatory standpoint, or are there other things driving new investments in data management, data governance for digital transformation?
I think, so this is interesting that you go all the way back to 2008. So in City, we had a joke around ROI. And I think it was a cartoon somewhere, published data governance cartoon, and it said something like, we had no problems getting funding as soon as we redefined ROI as a risk of incarceration. So we have moved on from that. I'm happy to say, but ROI is still a question, and especially when you start a new program or data management, data governance, even digital transformation is something that it's a new concept for the company. You absolutely need to talk about ROI. And the first couple of years in Voya, I have spent a lot of time trying to define and make it in business terms. What's the value of the data program? And I've had some success over that, just looking at the trajectory of it, to the extent that I actually don't have to do that anymore. But it's been a lot of work to start with. And the way I like to approach it is, again, from the business drivers. So if I go back to the very first questions that we were discussing around what is Voya direction, it's empower our customer. So improve our customer experience, empower our good decision making, and empower our business strategy, understand where our business needs to be going. So if you take each one of them, how do you improve your customer experience? You need data for that. And how do you make good decisions about which products do well, which products don't do well? How do you, like any type of the business decisions that you need to make, both financial and product related and investment related, you need data. And again, going forward with the business strategy, what will resonate in the market? What is the failure and what is success? I was talking about cloud enabling fast fail, but you need to know when you fail. How do you know? Or you need to know when it succeeded. How do you know? Again, it's all about data. And when you have data, then you have all question that also basically data governance question. You need to bring data in. So there is data integration piece, data management piece. You need to know where the data is. You need to know how good it is. You need to know data quality of this data. You need to know what is the data. So you need to know definitions. So if you're looking for that set of data, you need to be able to define, you need to have a fairly easy to use interface where you can find the data in the business terms and then go all the way to where it lives physically, technologically. And then how all this data connects. So what you and I talked about before, importance of common keys, which is master data management, our old friend, Informatica has been doing master data management for more years than I knew the term. There is common keys problem that we're still trying to solve beyond master data management. And then you have the whole privacy. As ESG is one of the hottest topics out there, it's all about data. It's what data, what are the metadata around this data. So it's now I'm going into the geeky land of CDO. So making those connections, that's where a lot of ROI is coming from. And some of it is stories, but some of it actually I've been able to quantify over time. Some of it is around efficiency. It's 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, people who do reporting spend looking for the data. If the data is there and they can find it and they understand the quality, now it's not 80-20. Now they're spending 80% doing analysis, providing a decision-making report, doing analytics, predictive modeling, and 20% looking at the data. So you get significantly more out of very highly paid resources that you have. The reusable capabilities is a huge driver of the data platform value and data governance value, because you don't have to keep rebuilding. So we've been able to show a lot of ROI around that. So again, so that's how I approach it. Again, going from the strategy of the company, and I don't think there are any companies out there today in financial services and outside as well, where there is data strategy that's not dependent, where there is a business strategy that's not dependent on data.
You know, so I have two daughters that are trying to figure out what they want to do in their lives. And they always wonder, you know, Dad, besides being on Zoom for 10 hours a day, like why would someone want to get into the data profession? And if you had to provide advice to the younger generation, because I've spoken to many of our generation in the industry, and you know, there's going to be new folks coming into this area of the business. Those that are interested in what we do in the industry, what advice would you have for them if they're looking to make data a career, whether it's in financial services or elsewhere?
My advice would be go for it. There is so much room for different types of talents in that area. So if it's somebody who is incredibly technical and wants to get into the deepest nuts and bolts, there is so much around data that you can get into and have a huge career doing this. There is also, if you're more interested in solving business problems, there is a huge room for that as well. And if you have that very rare talent where you can bridge between understanding of the business and understanding of technology nuts and bolts, that's also, so data, because of everything that we've just spent time talking about, it's connectivity to driving business value, but it's also a very technology heavy discipline. There's so many still technical problems that need to be solved, again, from AI, ML perspective, but also from nuts and bolts of it. How do you move data effectively? How do you improve performance? How do you know what the data is where? There is tons of purely technical work that exists, and that's very deep and very interesting. And if somebody inclined that way, they can go as deeply as they like. There is no end to it. And also, but it's also very much driving the business. So you're not on the background anymore. So one of the minuses of being in data was that you were pretty much invisible.
Yeah.
I have this whole story about my travel to Seville this time around, and we went on a food eating tour, and one of the dessert places was in the monastery of cloistered nuns. So, and they buy the cookies. So cloistered nuns, you can't see them, and they cannot see you. So there is a lazy Susan. You put the money, you spend the lazy Susan behind the wall. They take the money, put the cookies come out.
Interesting.
So when to me, a lot of data people historically have been those cloistered nuns behind the lazy Susan that nobody saw. You know, somebody put some data specs behind one and some data came out the other way. That's just not the case anymore. Data is front and center. There is a lot of business strategy that's reliant on data and analytics. So if about 10 years ago, it was much more technical discipline and not a lot of interaction with the business, I think that's changed dramatically within the last 5 years. And I think it will continue changing. So I would, for people who are interested in data, please join us.
That's a great explanation. And I do agree, you know, the real influential folks are those that understand the technology that's utilized to support how data is managed, governed, protected, et cetera. But then having the knowledge of why the business needs it is even more important. Julia, thank you so much for your time today. We could have probably gone on for another hour or so talking about this. I do look forward to seeing you again in person very soon. I want to thank the folks from CDO Magazine for giving us the opportunity to spend time with each other and with everyone here in the virtual community. Stay safe and healthy, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Wonderful conversation. I really enjoyed it.